Here's a look at your market recap on this Friday, the 24th day of January. Call it unbelievable, call it historic, call it monumental. You can pick any adjective you want, but it won't be enough to describe what happened this week in the markets. Now, I'll be the first to admit this time last week, it was not hard to find myself or about anyone else in the industry who wasn't a bit concerned that perhaps we might have reached a plateau, at least for the time being. But let me just be the first to say that all of those doubts about the market strength were blown away this week. And we're going to get into talking about just exactly what happened. And we have to start out with the cattle on feed report that was released Friday afternoon, because that is the report that all the cow-calf guys, all the feeders in the industry have been waiting for, that bullish report that we knew sooner or later had to come, and it came on Friday. On feed numbers, 99.7. Marketing numbers came in at 99.1. And the number that we knew sooner or later had to come was the placement number. It came in at 96.7, a full 2.1% below the bottom range of the pre-estimate reports. That's about as bullish of a cattle on feed report as we've seen in a long, long time. Taking a look at other things that happened this week. The box beef cutout values, they did close lower this week, 327.92 on the choice. That was down 577 for the week. Select at 316.29, down 354 for the week. So there could be a touch of concern with demand issues there. Time will tell that. The choice select spread on Friday, 1163, volume 129 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. But switching gears back to the positive side, feedlot trade, as of the 2 o'clock cutoff on Friday afternoon, 61,612 head of confirmed negotiated sales. Nothing extra reported in Texas on Friday. They end up with just under 2,000 head, all at 201 to 202. Kansas, they gained about another 1,000 head on Friday as of the cutoff time, 7,037 head. Early week sales, live 201, gained a little bit all week, got up to 205, and then on Friday, another 600 head of live sales at 208, and a load of dress sales at 330. Then when we get to the north, that's where things got really exciting this week. Iowa had 18,504 head, almost all reported on Friday. The early live sales started out at 205. We got up to 212 on Friday, with most of those sales around 211. The dress sales from 320 to 338. Most of those dress sales around 330. In Nebraska, live sales anywhere from 203 early in the week up to 212 late in the week, with most of those sales on Friday at 211. The dress sales, 320. That was early in the week. By the end of the week, some dress sales reported all the way up at 339. Most of them around 330. Those weighted average prices for both the live and dress, sure enough, going to set all-time record highs again when things come in Monday. We won't have the final numbers until Monday, but on the dress side, it's going to be somewhere probably just over 330. That would be a gain of $8 on the week. The live sales, they'll be somewhere around 210, and that would be up about $6.50 for the week. Taking a look at the auction barns around the state, when all's said and done this week, we're going to end up with about 37,000 head of feeder cattle. Not a big week in the state by any means. Several of the reporters did note that quality this week was a bit lower than last week, and where most of our sales really occur, the big volume ones, sure enough anyways, occur earlier in the week. The feeder markets around the state this week were uneven. Some spots are lower, some spots are higher, mostly around the steady mark. Didn't have near as many of the big heavy yearlings this week as what we normally see. It was a bit lighter of a week, of course, but taking a look at some of the top ends of the stick out sales on some of the bigger drafts, mostly over 20 head this week, had 41 head of 472-pound steers, top out at 391. That was at South Central Regional Stockyards in Vienna. 40 head of 522-pound steers at Callaway Livestock Center at 380, the average statewide at 359. Had 15 head of 628-pound steers way down at Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains at 329. 82 head of 701-pound steers at Callaway Livestock Center, 298.25. Now, we were hitting the $3 mark on some of those lighter 7 weights just a week or two ago. The weighted average price this week at $285. And then we had a package of 27 head of 854-pound steers at Kingsville Livestock Market at $265.25. On the heifer side, 34 head of 536-pound heifers in Kingsville at $332.50. The weight average price statewide on those light 5 weights this week, $332.50. There was 40 head of heifers, 658 pounds, sold at Windsor Livestock Auction. They were tagged as fancy, all black, all beautiful. Could have went home, could have went to the feedlot, could have went anywhere. But when the hammer fell on those, $296.25. A full load of 701-pound steers or heifers at Tina Livestock Market. They sold on Monday at $274.50. The weight average price on those light 7 weights this week at $259. Taking a look now at the futures markets on the Mercantile Exchange. For the week, live cattle were up $3.18 to $8.02. Lean hogs were mixed from 12 cents lower to $1.18 higher. The feeder cattle, $1.57 to $8.52 higher. That live cattle contract, the February, it set several new records this week for a nearby contract as well. On Friday, it closed at the highest price ever in history, $204.77. That was up $3.67. April at $203.02, up $2.30. Feeder cattle for January, $278.70, up $1.62 on Friday. March closed up $2.50 at $276.57. That cash feeder cattle index, $278.28, and that's about 70 cents below the all-time record there. And, of course, that's based on an 800-pound live steer through the auction barns in the 12-state feeding region. Lean hogs for February, $82.30. That was up 17 cents on Friday. April, $88.20, up $1. Turning our attention to the grain markets now at the elevators around the state. For the week, soybeans were 6 to 21 higher, wheat was 6 to 9 higher, corn was 4 lower to 2 higher, and grain sorghum 3 higher. Corn bids on Friday in St. Louis, 489 to 491, Kansas City 446 to 476. Soybean bids, St. Louis 1065 to 1067, Kansas City 1005 to 1040. Wheat bids, St. Louis 554 to 569, Kansas City at 514. Taking a look at the Chicago Board of Trade futures markets. Now, for the day, all those grains were lower, but for the week, we saw pretty good gains in the grains as well. Soybeans were up 22 to 25 for the week. Wheat was 6 to 10 higher, corn was 3 to 6 higher, and the soybean meal 770 to 860 higher for the week. On Friday, however, corn was 2 to 3 1/4 lower. March at 486.5, May 496.5. Soybeans were 9 1/2 to 9 3/4 lower on Friday. March at 1055 3/4, May at 1068 1/4. Wheat bids, March was down a dime at 544, May down 9, 558 3/4. Soybean meal for March down $10.40 a ton on Friday, 304.90. Soybean oil for March was up 18 cents a hundredweight at 45.22. But again, despite the losses on Friday, most all those grain contracts closed higher for the week. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's your market recap for Friday. This is Tony Hancock.